few days ago, we covered the verse from Surah Al-Baqarah, which talked about how the children of Israel, they wanted to go and fight. They had been kicked out of their land. And they went to their prophet and they were complaining, and they said, assign a king, a leader for us that's going to unite all of our 12 tribes, and we'll get together, stop fighting each other, and we'll actually go and fight the people who've been oppressing us. So the next verse on that subject is وَقَالَ لَهُمْ نَبِيُّهُمْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ قَدْ بَعَثَ لَكُمْ طَالُوتَ مَلِكًا. He says, he said to them, that their prophet said to them, that Allah has decided for you that Talut is going to be your king. Now Talut was one of the people who lived among them, and the prophet, Allah decided through the prophet of their time that Talut is going to be their king, their leader, and he's going to lead the army. So what was the response? This is exactly what they were asking for. They were saying, can you go and ask Allah, and you're a prophet, we need someone who can unite us and bring us together. So pick somebody for us that we're going to follow this person. So they decided, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to the prophet, this is the guy that's going to be. What was their response immediately? قالوا أَنَّا يَكُونُ لَهُ الْمُلْكُ عَلَيْنَا وَنَحْنُ أَحَقُّ بِالْمُلْكِ مِنْهُ وَلَمْ يُؤْتَ سَعَةً مِنَ الْمَالِ. So their first response was, they said that how could he be the one who gains the kingdom over us, while we are more deserving to be in a position of leadership, in a position of kingship, than he is. وَلَمْ يُؤْتَ سَعَةً مِنَ الْمَالِ. He hasn't even been given much wealth at all. So there's two issues. Number one, they said, we're more qualified, the other leaders among the tribes, we're more qualified than he is. And number two, he doesn't even have much wealth. He doesn't have prestige. He's from like a lower class family. We're upper class people. How could he be made the king? What was the response of the Prophet? قال إن الله اصطفاه عليكم وزاده بسطة في العلم والجسم. He said that Allah has chosen him over you. Now that would have been enough. Doesn't need to explain anything more. When Allah picks something, when Allah decides something, you don't need any other explanation. But because these people were stubborn and these people were rebellious, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the Prophet gave them another explanation. He said, we're going to tell you why he's been chosen. وَزَادَهُ بَسْطَةً فِي الْعِلْمِ وَالْجِسْمِ. Allah has increased him in ilm, in knowledge, and jism, in his body. He was a strong, Talut was a strong person. So if you have a leader, they need to be strong, especially physically strong. They need to have knowledge, they need to have wisdom, people need to respect them because they need to gain the respect of people. And what's going on here is, and then Allah says, وَاللَّهُ يُؤْتِي مُلْكَهُ مَن يَشَاءُ وَاللَّهُ وَاسِعٌ عَلِيمٌ. Allah gives the kingship or leadership to whomever he wants, and indeed Allah is generous and knowledgeable. Now this is important because it talks about the quality of leaders, leadership, and followership. And followership is being criticized here, because these were the people who were complaining and saying, we need a strong leader. And I can tell you how many times I've heard in the Muslim Ummah, I hear this all the time. Locally, we need a strong leader. Internationally, we need a Khalifa. We need a strong Muslim leader to guide these countries and guide these nations, and then we can stand up to our enemies and all of these things. And the lesson here that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is revealing to us is there was a group of people in the past, the Muslim Ummah of the past. They said the same thing. We want a strong leader, and the strong leader will unite us together. And the strong leader is going to make us strong and powerful, and we're going to follow him, and everything's going to happen. And as soon as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala appointed someone, they didn't even choose. Allah appointed somebody, and what was their problem? The problem was not the leadership. The problem was the followership. The people started complaining. We don't want that person, and we don't want this, and we're not going to follow him, and this is not fair, and it should have been us, and he doesn't have knowledge, he doesn't have wealth, he doesn't have this, he doesn't have that. And Allah's explaining, he's more than qualified to be a leader. The problem was not leadership. The problem was the people and their followership. And the important lesson that we learn, sometimes the critique is correct. We as a smaller community, and we as a larger ummah internationally, we need strong leadership. But you can't have strong leadership unless you have strong followership. who's going to be ready to support that leader as well. So what do? We don't just simply point fingers and say that this is the problem. Other people say, no, there's the problem. Every single person needs to work on themselves. And they need to look at themselves and ask, if I'm put in a position of leadership, will I be a good leader or a bad leader? And if I'm in a position of followership and we have a good leader put in position, will I be a good follower or I'll be a bad follower? And that's what's going to make or break an ummah. So there's a very, very important lesson that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us, and that is we need to always work on ourselves. Because we can never be a strong, collective, united ummah if we talk and we make excuses and we put blame here and blame there, and actually the problem could potentially be inside us on an individual level. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cure the diseases within our heart. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us qualified and strong leadership. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us qualified and strong followership. Ameen wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum.